from the International School at Tel Aviv University, you're listening to Rihla, the podcast of the MA in Middle Eastern Studies program. Rihla is the Arabic word for travelogue. The Rihla Podcast brings you stories of our students' journeys as they live and study in Tel Aviv and travel throughout Israel and the wider Middle East.
Welcome to a new episode of Rihla Podcast. My name is Valerie Strassmann, and I'm standing in front of the house of Ben-Gurion, where I'm going to meet with Davey Friedman, graduate student in the MAMES program of Tel Aviv University.
Hi, Valerie.
Hi, Davey. How are you?
I'm doing great. Enjoying this beautiful morning in Tel Aviv.
So we're standing in front of David Ben-Gurion's house. Let us explain who was Ben-Gurion.
Sure. I think I'll explain sort of what he's known most famously for, and maybe then what he's known a little bit less famously for, and then what he sort of is to me personally. So most famously, Ben-Gurion was Israel's first prime minister. He played a crucial role in the establishment of Israel in 1948, and he was a fierce, sometimes even ruthless political leader, a brilliant military strategist, and he participated in the sort of most difficult and trying periods of Israel's establishment, and then the building, the structuring of the state thereafter, until his retirement in 1963. And I think the least known story of David Ben-Gurion is really his inner self, you could say, his psychology, his mind, and his sort of personal journey. And that's the story that textbooks can't really elucidate, that you wouldn't hear in the classroom, and that isn't discussed, let's say, in the historical literature. David Ben-Gurion combined, in a beautiful way, the reflective, learned life with the practical, pragmatic, political man of action. And you can see it if you walk through his house. I think to talk about sort of my personal connection with him, I need to explain, like, why I'm in Israel, what the heck I'm doing all the way out here. When I was finishing my university studies, I was raised in a Jewish community, and I lived a secular American Jewish life for most of my life. But I wasn't wholly connected in my college years to a Jewish community, and I focused some of those studies on Jewish history and especially the story of Israel. And I started, I read the story, I read like a biography of Ben-Gurion, and immediately I felt connected to this vision that he had. It's like a vision of what he called the Jewish Renaissance. The idea of Israel, the idea of a Jewish state, isn't about Judaism whatsoever. I don't think the future of the Jewish people has very much to do with Judaism. I think it has to do with Jewishness and with Jewish people. And that's what Ben-Gurion really believed.
What was your initiative firsthand to enter this Peace Corps and to come here?
I came with a very idealistic vision of what I was here to do. Like I said, I had read about the Jewish Renaissance and the potential of this amazing place. And I wanted to do something not only for myself, but also to help, to do service. And I became an English teacher. And I taught in 5 elementary and middle schools here. I was here for 10 months. And I had an amazing experience.
Did you have any experience before in teaching or working at schools? Or was it something new?
Let's see. I had tutored kids for their bar and bat mitzvahs since I became a bar mitzvah. But I was not a trained or certified English teacher, which I wish that I had been. So I was here working for a year, and then I went home for a little soul searching and decided that I wanted to be a graduate student in Israel, that I wanted to study here, and that this would be a chance to sort of codify my experience, let's say, to like put some structure around this really interesting sort of transformative travel and service that I had done here. But I wanted to understand the region as a whole, and I felt like I was starting to come into my sort of, let's say, true identity and relationship to Israel, which is that, I'm an American Jew, a native English speaker, and it gives me a certain role, let's say, a certain distance and a certain perspective. And I think I at first resisted that perspective when I came here. I wanted to be a part of the authentic Israeli experience, as many idealistic young people do, Jews and non-Jews. But I think, after a few years of living here and learning about myself, I figured out that what I wanted to be, really, is I wanted to maximize the potential that my role gives me so that I could change things. And people ask you often, what are you going to do with that? What's your career going to be? It's just a silly question, because it's clear, it's obvious. I want to be a source of change. I want to be intimately involved, whether it's in reflection or in action. Going back to Ben-Gurion, I want to be intimately involved in my place, let's say the United States, and this place, Israel. And so that's, I think, another reason why, the ultimate reason why Ben-Gurion is such an inspiration.
What could you draw from our studies to come to this conclusion about your place in the world and about the role you're going to play?
Valerie, that's a great question, and I'll answer by saying that I'm really pleased that our studies are structured such that there's really this worldly perspective that comes with the MAMES program. And this isn't an Israel studies program or a Jewish studies program, as is fairly common here for international students to come and study, but this is a study of the Middle East. And interestingly, it's sort of the Middle East with the exception of Israel, without Israel in the mix. And it's like such a refreshing methodology, because it forces one to, let's say, at least for me, step outside my comfort zone and really understand Israel's neighbors, both in terms of politics, culture, and I think most importantly, languages. Taking a semester of Arabic, made a huge difference to me. Studying Arabic intensively, especially with such a brilliant linguistics professor. I'm going to mention his name because he's so amazing. His name is Lior Lax. Thank you, Lior, for showing me, reaffirming for me, the notion that cultural communication begins with and has a middle with and ends with language. And I think that while fluency, absolute fluency in non-native languages is kind of wishful thinking, I learned that about Hebrew.
I learned that about English, even in this interview.
Even though we both speak those respective languages pretty well, it's still so important to study the language of places that you want to understand, that you want to cooperate with. And I feel like it was such a gift to have MAMES focus on a world outside Israel. Now, how does this relate to me? Why is this important to me? Well, see, my life has become, in a way, this sort of confluence of worlds, of perspectives, of places. Sometimes I feel like I sort of said this often in between living in Seattle and living in Tel Aviv, that I felt like I was living in the ocean, that I really, what I was doing with my life was combining places and ways of thinking. And it's so important that to have added, for me, the Arab world as a place. Obviously, I haven't lived there for long periods of time, but I feel lucky to have Arabic and Arab culture on my radar as an area of comfort for me, of a subject that is fascinating, that I want to pursue. And I think that's the beginning of change. Not that I have some solution to, 100 years of conflict. Not at all. But I have an attitude about learning that I can teach with, that I can point other people towards. And so if I can point others towards the beginning of something, that's a gift. So thank you, MAMES, for all that you've done for me.
Honestly, that's a very, very nice notion, pointing other people to the beginning. So thank you very much for this interview, Davey.
It was a pleasure. Thanks, Valerie.
I would say I will point you to have another coffee with me.
She's going to point me in the direction of the beach.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Rihla Podcast. We have more episodes coming out soon, so stay tuned. For more information on the MA in Middle Eastern Studies program and how to apply, visit mames-israel.org. That's MAMES-Israel.org.